The lasting effects of the Indian boarding school policy and the importance of revitalizing Indigenous language, cultures, and spiritual beliefs. Anim bojo indinwe maganadok, Christine Youngworth, Janganash, Noswin Minwa Wapshka Beneshikwe Indishnakas, Bojwikwadang Nindojaba Magizi Dodam. What I said in Anishinaabe is hello all my relatives. I am Christine Youngworth and I'm known as White Thunderbird Woman. I live in Green Bay and I'm from the Eagle Clan. It is important to acknowledge that my views shared in this presentation are based on the research I've done as well as my family's lived experiences. I am in no way speaking for everyone's experiences in Indian boarding schools. As a disclaimer, these images and information contained in this video may be difficult to hear. My hope with this presentation is that viewers will develop a deeper understanding of the Indian boarding school experiences. I also hope that viewers develop an appreciation, acceptance, and understanding of Indigenous cultural values and beliefs, as well as how these ideals are beneficial to everyone. This is General Richard Henry Pratt. He started Carlisle, which is the first government-run Indian boarding school, and it was run from 1889 to 1918. The goal, of course, was assimilation. These schools were run very military style in nature, which is not surprising considering his military background. His famous quote from his speech, "Kill the Indian in him and save the man." This photo is the Mount Pleasant Indian Industrial Boarding School, dated around 1910. Just by seeing the children lined up in front of the school, you can see how military in style it was. This school first opened in 1893. Many of my family members attended the school in the 1930s before they closed around 1936. This is a wider view of Mount Pleasant. When I came across this photo, my first thought was that it gives a false impression that children are playing and having fun at the school. However, another way to look at this is considering the fact that by giving children this free time and having them engage in these leisure activities, it was a not so obvious way to assimilate children into white cultures. I want to shift our focus now to my family's boarding school records that I obtained from the archives in Chicago. This is in regards to our family's complaint of the treatment of his kids. They came home complaining about having to drink dirty water, being ignored by the teacher, and teased by the classmates. The letter is from a social worker to the teacher, and she states, "It is my opinion, however, that the problems complained of are partly products of the imagination rather than real and serious. It's apparent she's trying to blow off the situation without even investigating for herself." She goes on in the second part to say that without a doubt, this family is very sensitive and feels alone in this community and wants some special attention. I have found the Indians to be very sociable and need always the companionship of other people. Well, of course these kids want attention. They're separated from their families, and they're not even receiving any of the nurturing and love that they would be getting if they were home with their families and community. Here's the teacher's response to the social worker. "I have taught all sorts of children, even had a little Negro girl last, and all were treated with equal consideration. And this is the first complaint that I have ever received, and pray that it is the last one, because things of that sort affect me terribly, almost to the point of illness, especially when there seems to be no definite grounds for his criticism. Regarding Mr. Joseph's statement that I do not pay as much attention to his kids as I do to the rest of the children, again, here he is wrong. As a matter of fact, I spend just as much time with his children as I do with any of the others, and sometimes more, because they are considerably backward in their work, and I am trying my best to give them a good foundation, and I believe that is the most anyone can do." So it's apparent that this teacher's mental health around these accusations is more important somehow than the neglect of what my family was experiencing. The teacher is playing the victim here, which is so disheartening. This letter is from the social worker in response to our family's request for a package that they need, which contains clothing for their children. The social worker sent them a package, but it was cash on delivery, and our family didn't have money to pay in order to pick it up. So in this letter, the social worker is asking my great-grandmother, who is in this picture, to make 2 lunch baskets at $1.75 each, then 1 or 2 rainbow colored baskets like the one her mother made for around $1.50 each, then some colorful small baskets for 50 cents to $1 each, which would make up for the $9.56 she needs for the COD package. And she said she will send her the check for $9.60 today. So first of all, these baskets are worth much more than what she's offering. And second, the social worker is not even considering how long it takes to make these baskets or the process for collecting the supplies before she can even begin making them, all so our family can receive clothing for her children. Now keep in mind that many Native families were living in poverty during this time as a result of being forced into reservations without the resources they needed. Families were desperate for help, even with simple things such as food and clothing. So that reservation system began in 1851 with the passing of the Indian Appropriations Act. The next step I took in this project is interviewing my mom, who I know heard stories from my grandma a few days before she passed about what actually happened to her in boarding school, which she never talked about before. This story may be difficult to hear, so if you'd rather not listen to it, please press mute until it moves to the next slide. So this is my aunt and my grandma in this picture. And my aunt, the one in purple, was slapped during confession because she admitted to stealing an apple. The other thing that happened is my grandma and my aunt snuck a hug when the lights went out and they were caught. So they were punished for sneaking a hug. And they had to sleep on hard concrete floors separate from each other the rest of the night with no pillow or blanket. Another thing that happened in these schools is that they were punished if they were caught speaking their language, even though that's all they knew. My Uncle Sonny was punished for trying to run away by means of crossing the frozen lake during the winter months. I'm sure there are many more memories that were just too painful to bring up. This photo is my grandmother, who is the smallest one, her siblings, her parents behind them, and a few other relatives. So how has all of this affected our family through the generations? Since my grandmother moved far from our tribe when she started having kids, we had no connection to learn our language, culture, or traditions. All of that was lost in Indian boarding schools. Keep in mind that it wasn't until 1978, with the passing of the American Indian Religious Freedom Act, that it was even legal for tribes to practice their spiritual beliefs. I was 4 years old when this was passed. My grandmother had 11 children, and my mother is the only one to reconnect with our tribe, culture, and language. I am the only one of my mother's 4 children that are doing the same. Everyone else in the family knows they are Anishinaabe, but have no desire or have made no efforts to learn our traditional ways of being, and many struggle with alcoholism. They don't recognize the intergenerational trauma that has been passed down as a result of our family's boarding school experiences. Gravestones on school grounds. Unfortunately, many children never made it home. They died of illnesses, accidents, and even abuse. In 2021, NBC News investigated missing records amidst the discovery of the deaths of hundreds of children while in attendance at the school. Only 5 of those deaths were actually documented by the U.S. government. When the lands were returned to the Saginaw Chippewa tribe in 2010, researchers confirmed the deaths of 227 children. This news came to light after Canada discovered mass graves of more than 1,500 children on grounds of former Indian boarding schools. This is one of 7 remaining buildings at Mount Pleasant. The Saginaw tribe has worked with the National Native American Boarding School Coalition, and they were able to help them confirm the records of the 227 deaths. Efforts are being made to find the remains, but there are trespassers and ghost hunters that have wreaked havoc on these buildings, and that is what has prompted the tribe to step up and begin this historical project to protect the remains and any evidence that may still exist in these buildings. What efforts are being made in terms of revitalization? Every year, the Saginaw Chippewa tribe has a commemoration of Indian boarding school experiences. Survivors continue to step up and share their stories to help others in the healing process. Language revitalization efforts continue to spread across Michigan tribal nations, including our tribe, which is the Sault Ste. Marie Chippewa. Online language classes are being made to encourage families to learn from their home. Traditional healers have been utilized within tribal health clinics to encourage tribal members to engage in traditional ways of healing. And this photo is my grandmother in the purple shirt, and she is with her childhood best friend. Why are these revitalization efforts so important? Because intergenerational trauma is real, and we have to acknowledge this trauma, learn and grow from it in order to fully heal and become better humans for the future generations of our children, like my granddaughter, who is the shortest one in this photo. To ensure this happens, we must reconnect and relearn our spiritual beliefs, our traditions, our cultures, and our languages. These are the values that will build a strong foundation for our children to learn and grow. Indigenous ways connect us all with life on earth and remind us of the gift we each possess that will guide us on our journey through life. These values remind us of our responsibility to Mother Earth, who provides us with everything we need. We must live in reciprocity and understand the need to respect all life. We also must decolonize by acknowledging the systems of oppression that have silenced our people for far too long. I'm going to end with one of my favorite quotes from our readings. We believe that the story of Native American education can lead to a better understanding of our individual and collective identities. Native America's experiences provide lessons from which all can learn. We take to heart Luther Standing Bear's vision that America can be revived, rejuvenated by recognizing a Native school of thought. The Indian can save America. What a complete opposite thought. From the very beginning, where General Pratt said, "Kill the Indian to save the man," the Indian can save America.